Good morning, evening, afternoon to whoever's listening, wherever you're listening. This is Clearing a Path to Your Health with Caroline Nettle. And today I have a fabulous guest with me, and we are going to have such a good conversation. I can feel it. But just to warn you right off the bat, they are playing around with the cables outside and it's affecting my internet. So if I go off, Rob has very kindly agreed to step in whilst I try and come back on. Can't do anything about that, but that's the way the world goes. Okay, so Rob Underwood, you will probably already know him if you already listen to 1-2 Radio, because he has his own health show and he is a very important member of the radio team. He's also co-owner at Good Life Acupuncture and Wellness Centre. So just want to say thank you to Scott Weaver, my producer. And I think, Rob, if I just introduce you and say, would you like to introduce yourself to my listeners?
Sure, Caroline. Thank you so much for having me on today. I really appreciate it.
So welcome. So welcome.
And yes, thank you, Scott, for helping us out this morning. I have a show on Tuesdays. It's called Living the Good Life. And what I do is I try to share some principles that I see in the clinic that are easy to implement for people and just help people out with real general health lifestyle changes that they can make to just improve everything and make immunity easier to achieve and have everybody be able to have the health outcome that they'd like. And I'm just really excited to be here with you and your constituents today to share it even further.
Gosh, constituents, that's a good word.
You like that?
I was once told I should be a politician. I think I'd be a dreadful politician, right? Far too opinionated. But anyway, okay, so is there a reason that you went into health? Did you have ill health and you found it, or is it just something you've been really interested in all your life? Or?
Oh, that's a fun story. You're going to love this.
Okay.
When we were living in Wyoming back in the late 90s, I think, or early 2000s, and my wife... she grew up on a ranch in Wyoming. So she's a horse person and really just amazing horse person. And so she was training horses on this. We had this beautiful rental house on this 1,000-acre ranch right at the base of the Rocky Mountains. I mean, it was something out of like a movie set. Like there was a little stream going right through the property. And every morning we'd wake up and it'd be like the birds are chirping and the horses are neighing and everything. And so one morning she had a friend in town, and this friend was super, super, super eager to ride. And Stacy was like, I don't feel like today's a great day, but I'll do it because you're in town and you're chomping at the bit to, no pun intended, chomping at the bit to go ride. So she did, and lo and behold, she got bucked off. So she did not listen to her intuition. And when she fell, her knee broke. The patellar tendon snapped, a little chunk of bone off of the kneecap. And so, or rather off the tibia, I think. Anyway, it was a bad break. Yeah. And so, we were young and we didn't have any health insurance. And in America, that's the thing, is not having health insurance. So we ended up having to figure out how to solve this ourselves. So we went to a surgeon. He was really highly recommended. He worked on the Denver Broncos football team. So he was this short little man, very annoying. And he was like, if you don't come in and have this done this week, you will never walk right again. And wow. He was a total jerk. I mean, I could not describe for you the level of jerk this guy was. And it was a $20,000 procedure, which we didn't have at the time. And so long story short, we tried acupuncture, we tried massage therapy. She recovered with remarkable success just through acupuncture, like recovered 98% of her range of motion, pain released in one treatment. It was like one of those miracle moments, just like the skies opened up and the sun beamed through and things resolved. It was amazing. And we're both sitting there like just agog at what was happening, because we were so scared by this man's admonitions. And so she was like, almost within moments, she's like, I'm going to acupuncture school. This is what I want to learn. And I'm like, I'm right there with you, honey. Let's figure this out because this is too cool. And so we moved back to New York City, and she started at like the Harvard of acupuncture schools in America, and the rest is just like me following her lead. And that was it.
That's amazing.
Isn't that fun?
Yeah, I like that one. So my story is nowhere near as romantic as that, but
Tell me about yours.
so it's quite dramatic though. So I had a really difficult and challenging childhood, and the first health crisis that I know about is that we lived in a new build house and they were still building around us, and there was farms around us and they were spraying DDT. This is back in the 60s. Now it's called DDE and it does just as much harm. And anyway, my mum would take me to the doctor and say, oh, she's stopped breathing. And the doctor would be there, don't be silly. You're just making it up. So that's the first thing that I know. As a baby, I had breathing difficulties due to toxic poisoning, basically. And I'm amazed that I'm still here sometimes because I was so allergic to everything. Well, then I would have bronchitis, and it was like feeding me. We have these sweets in England called Smarties, and they were yellow, and I would just take antibiotics like all the time because I had bronchitis. Although it turned out when I was in New Zealand, I found out it was asthma. Anyway, then I started smoking and drinking and traveling a lot, and, just never had any concept that I might need to look after this temple that I'm kind of walking around in. And so I worked really hard, and I thought it was really important to have, prestige from my job. So I worked ridiculously hard. I was drinking and partying and smoking and gosh, all sorts of things. And then I started going to the doctor, and I started saying, so in England, I don't know if it's the same in America, but we'll have a practice with lots of different doctors. Mm-hmm. And I was probably about 30 when this happened. For about 2 years, I'd go in and I'd say, listen, there's something wrong with me. And they'd be like, I got told I was a hypochondriac. I got told it was because I smoked. I got told it was because I flew too much, because I drank too much, even though I lied my socks off to the doctor because I didn't, that's what people do. Anyway, and then this Kiwi locum basically said to me one day, has anyone ever tested your thyroid? And I was like, what's my thyroid? I mean, literally didn't have a clue about my body in those days. And she said, oh, it's this little thing, and it, regulates your hormones and blah, blah, blah. And the test came out. She's like, my goodness, you have got a completely non-functioning thyroid. So, blah, blah, blah. So I wanted to go in and punch all the doctors, obviously, because I'd been called a liar, basically, and I wasn't very happy about it. But anyway, so it was about 10 years after that I started experiencing this healing, that somebody came into work, and for £5, which is about $8, you could try it. And I just couldn't stop asking questions, and I went for more, and I didn't understand what it was doing, but I couldn't stop asking questions. And then one day she said, well, why don't you learn this? Now, you're talking to someone who, A, had no relationship with their body whatsoever, didn't know how the body functioned. I mean, I really don't know how I knew so little, but I didn't, but had never, ever considered healing. Like, it wasn't, I was in corporate, and I was, anyway, went along to the first course, was like, these are my people. It was insane. I can't tell you. And so you have to do 4 days, then you go away and you practice on 50 different people or 50 sessions, and then you come back and you do 4 more days, and then you have to take an exam and you have to get 96%. But I flew through it because it was just, this is what I'm supposed to do. And they basically said all sorts of things to me like, oh, you might get a few past life, and we call them 8th chakra because not everybody's okay with past life, and it might happen to you a little bit. I get them all the time. So I feel like, having learned this system, I've come home to my gift, which is helping people by exploring other aspects of their health. And that's why I was so excited that you were coming on today, because what I'd love to do with you is to just explore the discussion around what health actually is. What is it? Because I think so many people ask me this same question, and it's quite difficult to put into a phrase, but I think it's a really worthwhile conversation.
Oh, definitely. That's a great place to start, Caroline. I think I would describe it from my experience and from my training as health is when the body's various systems and energies are in balance. And so when they're in balance, you've got a pretty good shot at there being resources to bring to bear on whatever you need. Like if you need extra energy in the morning, or if you need, extra help getting to sleep at night, everything is available for you when you're in balance.
Yes. I completely agree with that, and you said that perfectly. So I would also add in the word functioning properly, like optimally. So in a way, if you're in balance, and yeah, that's the language I would speak, bringing the body into balance. And what is it that kicks the body out of balance? So this is going to be fun.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the number one thing that people have been buying in lockdown in the UK, supermarket shares have gone like ridiculous. Everybody's been going out and buying food. Why?
Right.
Because we're scared, we're bored, there's more time at home.
Yeah.
Let's have a little conversation about food and why we use it as a drug and what it does when we do that.
Sure. Sure. We do a lot of, so there's three levels of what we do. When we work with a client, we test, and then we treat, and then we train. So we call it a 3-4-5 method, and that's the three of the 3-4-5 method. And so training on the nutrition is a gigantic part of what we do. And there are so many, as you just mentioned, so many like misconceptions about, what does food do to us, and what are its uses, and how do we implement our food. There's so many I think lies being pushed at people about food that it's just hard to weed through it all. It's hard to get to the real root of the matter. And so in essence, what I teach my clients is just shop around the edges of the food store, like don't go into the middle. And you're going to be relatively safe. Eat more vegetables than meat at any given moment, and and don't get too don't beat yourself up. Like I work on the 80-20 principle, which is if I'm doing well 80% of the time, there's no way that 20% is going to overwhelm that. So I can eat Oreos or I can eat ice cream occasionally on the weekends, let's say, if I'm doing great all week. And that's what I teach my clients.
Yeah, and so I don't know if you know what I do, but what we do with my healing is I take the client and I just tune into the body. So rather than taking what the personality says or what the person says, yes, I take a really in-depth view of their life, and I ask about their parents and their siblings and all of that. Mm-hmm. But then I put that to one side and I just go into the innate wisdom of the body. And this is a little bit like what acupuncture does, I think. And we just say to it, what is it that's out of balance in this body? And I am totally untrained in nutrition. I'm totally untrained in A&P, to my detriment sometimes. Mm-hmm. But I just I get a feeling of, like my kidneys will start hurting or a little bit, or give me some dip, or, and every now and again I'll get, and you need to lay off the red wine, or perhaps your body doesn't, you're taking your tablets at the wrong time of day. Those tablets need to be taken in the evening or something. So literally getting me out of the way and asking them for the information. And I just find it so fascinating, because I do get very often, a little bit too much sugar going on here, or you're slightly allergic, I think, to gluten, or things like that. And I always have to say, I'm not qualified to tell you this, but go get it checked out with can't think of the word, with a doctor. There we are. Mm-hmm. That's what I say. So, but I also, my entire life have struggled with food. I mean, it has been my best friend, my comfort. I've given up so many things, and I have such little enthusiasm about curbing the sugar. So I'm being a 1,000,000% hypocrite here, but it does help me to, when people come to me with addictions and things like that, I get it 100%, and I know it's hard to get rid of. So, but yeah, okay. So, and also I suppose you must look at, like, I'm really fascinated with blood types and, like the structure of their body and their build. And I love all that sort of thing and how that affects their relationship with food. And yeah.
That's very cool. Yes, we definitely do look at cravings, and we look at body types. So different organ systems sort of tilt the body toward being slightly different, structurally slightly different. So for me, I'm a wood type. So you think of like wood being like those little sprouts that come up in the spring, really long, really thin, very wiry, strong, but really thin. So that's my body type. I'm very, I'm strong, but I'm very, very thin. And then the other body types, for instance, like the spleen type. Spleen in Chinese medicine correlates to the pancreas in Western medicine. So the pancreas is responsible for breaking down our food and giving us energy. And so spleen type people, you think more like the earth goddess body type, really, really fleshy and very, very round. Cuddly. Yeah, just very, very different than mine. And so each type of, depending on what your organ system is, that would sort of help determine what your body type is. And for you, I think it would be interesting to know, it also helps determine what you crave. So yes. like kidney types crave salt. So kidneys, water, and salt water. You think of salt as salt water. So oftentimes if people are always eating chips and they're always eating like pretzels, and they're constantly just salting their food, just as you said, when you ask all these questions, that's one of the things I always ask is, what do you crave? And it's usually salt or sugar. Those are the two big ones. And then that helps me sort of determine what organ system might be slightly either calling for help or completely out of balance, or really just running the show to the detriment of the other organs. And then we can get back to like, how do we get this back into balance? What do we do here? And so for you, I don't know how aware you are of Chinese medicine, but sugar and sweet cravings really indicate spleen deficiency. So you could kind of think of like challenges with blood sugar, or challenges with digestion, or loose stools, or muscles not getting fed with the typical level of vibrance that they might usually be fed with. And let me think. Worry would be the emotion. So does any of this resonate with you?
Not even slightly, of course.
Okay. Nice.
So it's really interesting. I don't think I'm a worrier, but I was like you, very sinewy, could eat what I want. I was very athletic, and then my thyroid. I had a thyroid disorder, and since then I've just been putting on like a little bit. I'm getting more and more cuddly, and so I don't. Yeah, I do know about acupuncture, and I do know because a lot of what we base is the guy who invented this just cherry picked lots of fantastic healing modalities, but not wanting to disclose too much about me, but I was really thin, and then I'm not anymore.
Yeah.
But, let's move on from me, because we don't need to talk about me. That's not very fun for the people. So what I loved about what you just said and the food things is so related to the next subject that I'd love to talk about, and that is how emotions in the body, to me, I would say 95% of what I do is remove emotional trauma, emotional upset, dad's anger, mum's depression, all of this that the kid's taken on. And I think that then drives the eating behavior, or I don't know, would you talk to that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. The emotional aspect is so crucial. Chinese medicine, we operate on the physical, the mental, and the spiritual levels. And so mental would sort of cover the psychological state, emotions. Spirit would be more like, what's my purpose? What am I here to do? What do I feel like is my calling? That kind of level. And then physical is physical. So for sure, that is a huge component of everyone's health situation. And just for me personally, I found that as I went on my health journey and discovered so more and more about why I was having my particular health challenges, it all stemmed from, lo and behold, like an emotional source. And so unpacking that and then like allowing myself to heal from that was a huge part. It wasn't really done in the guise of Chinese medicine. This was kind of before I discovered Chinese medicine, but it was certainly a huge, huge step forward for me and my health and allowing me to like flourish basically. Because before that, I was like your typical angry young man, like very sort of locked into I don't know, a very grumpy demeanor. and I cannot describe for you how much I agree with your viewpoint that level is so critical to discover for a person and then to help them let go of. And so I'm curious, when you work with somebody, what is it like? How do you do that? How do you allow them to let go of that emotional level? What is involved for you?
Yeah, so I was going to add to that quite a lot of people don't know what emotional issue they're carrying, and that seems to be what I'm quite good at tuning in. Yeah, so I didn't know I was psychic. I didn't know I had this ability, but as soon as I learned it, like for example, if I'm talking to you even on Skype or if I'm tuning into you, and you have a kidney issue, I'm like, oh, that's a bit uncomfortable. Okay, so I know I need to go into the kidney, and my body tells me, not always, and then I'll be like, oh, we've got some fear here because fear lives in the kidneys, of course. So then I tune into, well, what's the fear? And then I'm like, oh, it's granddad's, and it comes because he didn't want to go to war, blah, blah, blah. And I just, the body just, it's like my intuitive ability sort of links to your higher self almost. So I'm not asking Rob the person, I'm asking your body mind complex, which is far more intelligent than me or probably you, bless you, but I don't mean that in a rude way, but you know what I mean, it heals us all the time, and all it's trying to do is always get us back to a point of happiness and health and balance, as we were talking about. So for example, I did a session on a friend of mine, she's a doctor, and I said a word I didn't know. And I was like, oh, I'm getting this, blah, blah, whatever it was. And she's like, oh, that's a tiny little nerve in the foot. Yeah, I've been having problems in my knee. So because she knew it, I could pick up on it. It was just, it's outstanding. But normally I would just say, okay, I'm in your Achilles heel or whatever, wherever I am. And I think sometimes not knowing the names of everything is really good. So, so I just kind of, the body-mind complex. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Scott. I just kind of find out what's wrong, and we usually link something to something else because usually two things are out of balance with each other, and sometimes it's hysterical. It's like telling off children in a playground, like, liver, you have to be a liver. Stop picking on the kidneys. The kidneys have to do their job. The kidneys are continually asking the liver to do something. Well, you have to stop that kid. It's hysterical. Anyway,
that's great.
And I'm extremely, extremely nosy, so I really love what I do. Let's leave it there because it's the right time to go for a break. And when we come back, so we've done food and thoughts. We could talk a bit more to spiritual health and who you surround yourself with and all of that. And then we'll look in the chat room. If you have any questions for either Rob or myself or both of us, then do post them in there and we'll take a look at them. But we'll be back straight after the break.
are so happy that you have found 12 Radio. If you'd like to join us in the chat room, just head over to 12radio.com, click on the chat button, and just like that, you'll be redirected into our Facebook chat room. It's magic!
Hi, are you looking to connect with the universe and angels? Do you dream of a life with less stress? Do you want to discover how connecting with the universe and angels on a daily basis can help your life to flow more easily? If you're looking for a way to navigate these uncertain times, give me a call on 12listen.com. This is Keisha Angel, professional psychic advisor from 12listen.com. I look forward to speaking with you and supporting you on your journey.
Hey everybody, this is Robert Underwood. I have a show on Tuesdays called Living the Good Life. It's at 12 o'clock Pacific time. During this time of uncertainty, I wanted to share with you my favorite quote. It always inspires me. It's from Goethe. It goes like this: "Whatever you can do or think you can do, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it."
This is Jim Komar from Pathways to Consciousness and Healing. I have this show on 12 Radio where I talk about various topics and subjects. Join me every Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific time for Pathways to Consciousness and Healing, for a different way of looking at life and the world around you. That's 12 Radio, changing the way you listen to the world.
Hi, this is Isabel from 12 Listen. Whether you listen to 12 Radio to learn, to hear messages, to find answers or wisdom, we are so happy to have you. And for any new listeners, welcome. You can find me and other advisors at 12listen.com. Check out our time-based sessions for uninterrupted time to dive in topics you most need understanding and guidance on. And if you'd like to learn about spirituality and any esoteric topics, go to 12academy.com to see what classes are available now. Wishing you an amazing day.
Hello there, this is Barbara C. I'm a psychic advisor at 12listen.com. If you're in need of some positive spiritual guidance, help, advice, or an uplifting of any kind, please give me a call for some very quick, no-nonsense answers on any subject, from love and romance to money or prosperity, and even to which color car to buy. I'm a healer, I use tarot, and I can connect with your guides and angels, and I can also communicate with animals. So, I look forward to speaking with you. This is Barbara C. Talk to you soon.
Hello, my name is Caroline. I'm an angel intuitive and a health intuitive, and I've been working with people to help them release the issues that are making them ill since 2005. I find that often people are unaware of why they are ill. Since I've been working on 12 Listen, I've had clients call and ask me about their health issues, which of course I'm happy to help them with. But if you're interested in removing these blocks, then you're welcome to look at my email-based healing sessions, and this is where the real changes can be made. I'm not a doctor, nor am I qualified to diagnose or discuss your medicines, but I can help to alleviate some of the symptoms by helping your body to recalibrate or realign and work out for itself how to heal. I can work on individuals, on families, on groups of people, on businesses, and on animals. If you're wondering why you are not feeling 100% or you're stuck in a pattern and do not seem to be able to move forward, can I suggest that you take a look at what I'm offering, and let's find a way to help you move forward together. Look for Caroline N on 12listen.com, and I very much look forward to working with you and helping you to move forward. So welcome back, and I am here today with a delightful guest in Rob Underwood, and we discussed in the break that we would like to now look at how the spirit informs health, and I just think that's such an interesting topic, so I'm going to hand the baton over to you. Go.
Yeah, it's part of Chinese medicine that the spirit is treated with every treatment. So it's very much part of what we do every time I see somebody. Whether or not I actually tell someone I'm doing that,
yes,
it's part of what we're doing. And then, as you mentioned, how one feels about oneself. I actually spoke about this last week, and I used the metaphor of eddies. So an eddy in a river is a spot where the water kind of like gets cut off and goes to the side, and you get all your gunk kind of forms there, and you'll get like scum on top of the water, and all the like dirt and detritus will form there. Well, energetically, the way I envision the spirit affecting the health is just like an eddy. It's like you've got this area that's kind of cut off from the main flow, and gunk gets stuck there, and it just stays there, and it swirls, and it gets nasty. And you have to figure out a way, if you want to be healthy, you have to figure out a way to get all of your river in flow so that nothing is like stuck off to the side. And part of doing that, I think, might be what you're good at, is finding out which areas you need to address. Because like you said over the break, like some people are just completely oblivious. They're like, what? Like, I have a problem with my dad and I'm angry. Like, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That might have been me like 20 years ago. I was probably like that. Yeah. And then you hear that, and then you start to say, well, shit, what do I do now? How do I fix that?
What I want to say to that, which is so interesting, is, as you know, like a knee, I think every 7 years you get a brand new knee, right? Our body my brain's just stopped working. It remakes itself. Can't think of the word.
Oh, yes.
And lips are quicker than knees, and backbones are quick, whatever. But so if every 7 years, now I carry all my family trauma in my right knee, which is highly irritating to me. But anyway, so if at the end of 7 years I've got a brand new knee, why am I still having a knee problem? Because the programming to the knee, so what we say is, how do I say this without being too technical? So if the body at some stage has an emotion that it doesn't process, and here's a really good example of this, Robert, you've just really irritated me. I'm so angry at you right here, right now, in this moment. So that's me. I'm not angry with you at all, but that's me expressing my anger to the right person at the right time. What we do instead of that is I'll ring Katie up and go, Katie, you won't believe what Robert said. So we're expressing our anger in a not a purposeful way. So the body knows the difference. The body knows that with you, I said it properly. With my friend Katie, whatever, it didn't go down. So normally that would go onto the diaphragm, and that would be parked in the liver, because liver is where anger should be. But let's say last night I went out for a big steak and a cheese board and had lots of red wine and cognac. My liver is really struggling today because I have to process all of that. And those are foods that the liver doesn't, well, I don't say it doesn't like, but it's really difficult for the liver to do its job. And on top of that. So here comes this anger. The liver's already busy. It goes, I can't do that. So the diaphragm, which is like a filing cabinet of the body, goes, right, where's a weakness? So in my case, let's just imagine my right knee has been, I've had a problem with my right knee all my life, as did my father. So you can imagine where it comes from. Anyway, so my anger on that particular day would have gone straight to the knee. Now, once that pathway has been made, any excess anger will go straight to the knee, because the liver's not playing ball. It's not that it's not playing ball. It's just most livers are overworked and underfed, and they would the average American, English person, European person has a really stressed out liver. So when I go in to do my sessions, I'll go, oh, you're really angry in the knee, for example. And it is based in your life and other lifetimes and, parts of your family. Okay, we need to take that out for the knee to be able to heal. Whilst we're doing that, of course, we're healing the liver, because the liver now hasn't got as much of an overload because it's been taken out of the knee. So I don't know why I went into all of that, but really I find most people have bodies that they're not familiar with. Quite often when I'm doing the sessions, I'm like, oh, my kidneys are killing me. And they're like, nope, can't feel anything. Mm-hmm. And that is because we're disassociated from really early on from our bodies. We don't know what's going on. We don't know how amazing they are and what an incredible amount of work they do for us. So, and a lot of what I'm doing is this spiritual thing where your body is a temple, and we're just kind of helping that temple to function better. And I think when you take out Aunt Edna's, anger and the grief that came down from grandma and, all the things that you've processed and are carrying, it just kind of lightens your load. It helps remove anxieties and angers that aren't yours, and we give them back to the right people. But also, let's go to chronic illness. I find most chronic illness, whatever it's called or whatever it's labeled, it's rooted often in an inability of the person to express their biggest emotion. That is true for me in so many different ways. I don't know how you feel about that.
Say it once more.
So, a chronic illness is usually rooted in the person's inability to express or process a very large amount of emotions, whatever their particular flavor is.
Yeah, definitely. My father passed away from liver cancer, and he and I had challenges, like, I think probably from the get-go, but certainly from like my teen years on. And he was a very rigid and very angry individual. So it wasn't terribly surprising to me that the liver is the organ that got him. And absolutely, like, he could not express himself. It was never acceptable to speak about emotions, or at least, I don't know if it was acceptable, but it never happened. And I think you're absolutely right. My metaphor about eddies, that's what I'm picturing, is like that emotion gets stuck off to the side, and instead of just getting it into the flow and getting it out, people they let it stick around. And then you're right. Like, I can remember as like a 13 and 14-year-old looking at people, and maybe I'm a little bit of an empath, I may be, but looking at people and saying, it's not surprising that you've got this disease you've got, because you're like creating it in your own body with your emotions. I can just see it almost looking at you. And that's probably, I think it's a little different than what you're describing, because you get a feeling in your body, it sounds like, about what the person's feeling. I don't get a feeling in my body. I just have this like inkling just comes to me, like a thought pops into my head, and I'm like, oh, this is what's going on here. But either way, it's just neither here nor there. But
and I would say sometimes I don't. Sometimes it's just intuition. I think what helped me with that was just getting out of the way and not being really invested in getting them well, because I found some people just sometimes that's not what they want. And I think in the beginning when I was learning this, I just wanted everybody to be perfectly well. And of course that doesn't, it isn't always their life choice, or they don't really understand what wellness is, perhaps, or they're so invested in being ill because it's comfortable for them. I mean, lots and lots of different reasons.
Yeah.
The point that I'm trying to say is that now that I just know that they come to me because I'm supposed to balance some things in their life, and sometimes it's, one session and they're up and running and it's fantastic. That doesn't happen very often because these things are multi-layered, multifaceted. But yeah, it is so interesting to me when people really aren't getting well. And then, I think it's, and a very strong spiritual leader of mine once said, well, maybe they're not supposed to get it this lifetime. And I was like, thank you so much for that. That really helps me. But
no, I think you are You would make an amazing acupuncturist if you ever want to go back to 4 more years of school.
Oh, but I'm terrified of needles.
Oh, yes,
To a
that
point
wouldn't work.
horror.
No. Yeah,
So
no, that would not work. So,
no.
but you are definitely, like, I think I took classes in what you do where they tried to teach us. I know I did. I took classes in like somatic therapy and how to feel in your body what the client is feeling and be really deeply in tune with that. I think it's brilliant. I can't wait to have a trading session with you and see what what you discover.
Let me tell you a little secret. Thank you so much. So kind of, I once said to Spirit, do I have to be more reverend? Like, it came to me like it's so much fun. I love it. And I love trading and I love, I just love it. And they're like, they laughed at me, obviously, and said, no. But, and then they showed me 3 or 4 people that really made a big song and a dance about getting ready and getting into their space and all that. And I didn't do any of that. I don't know, it just comes. I'm very, very, very blessed with my gift.
Yeah,
I'm
you are
so
really blessed. That's great. Yes, we are blessed, I think. And
so if it's okay with you, there is one question that I see, and I'd love you. Okay, so we have 2 questions now. So I would love you to address this one from Mac Command, please.
Yes,
How do I lead a heart-centered life, and how does leading a heart-centered life heal my joint pain? I love that question. Thank you, Mac.
That's great. How does leading a heart-centered life? Well, first of all, how do you do it? You have to really remove the impediments to the heart. And so a lot of us walk around with armor, like I call it armor, but just protective layers mechanisms and things that we discovered over time that keep us alive. And you have to find a time and a place that's comfortable to take that off, and then practice taking it off more and more. And then eventually you can put it down, realizing, of course, that you're very vulnerable. And just being at that point, I have to at least be very aware of where I'm putting my energy. So like, I only spend time with people like Carolyn, loving, caring, generous, like beautiful souls that want the best for everyone around them. Like if I'm around Republicans right now,
I'm allergic to politics. You are not.
It's really hard. It's like I just get really antsy and I get irritable, and I'm like, I want to run. And so you just have to be ready when you're going to go through this process. You have to change who you hang out with, or be very lonely and very like isolated. But then how does it help your joint pain? Well, let's see. Heart is the child of liver, and liver rules the joints, right? So
I did not know that. Okay.
Yeah. So the way the five elements work. Let's start with liver. Liver's wood. It rules the joints and sinews, and wood makes fire, and fire is heart. So that's the next one. And fire makes ash, and ash makes earth. So that's the next one. That's spleen. Earth holds metal. And so lung is the 4th one. And metal holds water. That's the 5th one. And water feeds wood. So that's the cycle. So wood makes fire, makes earth, makes metal, makes water, and around we go. So there's this saying in Chinese medicine, to feed, To feed the child, feed the mother? To feed the mother, feed the child. So like if you want to feed the liver element, you have to feed the heart. And so for Mac, if he or she wanted joint pain to be resolved through a heart process, it would be a feeding of that heart energy. So how does one feed heart energy? So that's like, eating bitter greens, that's focusing on the heart chakra in yoga, that green energy in the chest. Like I said, that's practicing taking off your armor. That is, this is the time of the year for it, by the way. This is summer. We're still in summer, so this is heart. What else does one do? One could eat heart of another animal, taking supplements that have heart in them, I do that with my clients. So there's a lot of different, it depends on which avenue you want to go down. Spiritually, it would be resolving old hurts and old slights that you're holding on to. Like if somebody said, like, I don't like you 20 years ago and you're still holding on to that, it would be letting go of that slight. And just what I've realized lately, and I've come to the conclusion, is nobody means really, really bad for anyone. I mean, there's a couple evil people out there, but for the most part, everyone's just trying to go through their day. Like I see this person cut me off in traffic, and I used to get so angry and pissed off, and I'd flip them off and all this stuff. But I'm like, but what if the wife is in that passenger seat and they're trying to get to the hospital? You know, I don't want to slow that down. That's not my goal here. So let's just let you go and do your thing. And I wish you the best. And it wasn't terribly convenient for me. But then again, it's not the end of the world. Like exactly. I lost 1/10 of a second here or whatever. So God bless you and just continue on your merry path. And so I've tried to give that grace as much as possible lately. And it really resolves a lot for me because I don't hang on to a lot of slights and a lot of I still do, but not as much. And I think
sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. No, please.
I was going to say, I love the humanity in that. I don't hold on to, kind of do. Well, yeah. We're all doing the very best we can. Can I address that? So I would do it slightly differently. I call them masks. So I'm a brother, a husband, a son, a business owner, a best friend, etc. We all wear these masks and we play the roles that we have been given by others and assumed ourselves. And to me, leading a heart-centered life, I agree with you on the vulnerability, but so few of us know actually what that means. And the only thing I can say to that is getting sober took away the one thing that I knew how to cope with life with. And so the 13 years since I put down the bottle, very ungraciously, I really wasn't very gracious at all. I've had to learn who I am without that emotional crutch because, I needed alcohol to get through the day. And it's been really difficult. And I think this is what I want to say. So lots of people say to me, oh, congratulations. No, literally, I didn't have it. I couldn't have not done it because I'm A, stubborn, and B, just knew I couldn't fall and pick myself up one more time. I just didn't have it in me. So I'm still sober. That's not the same for other people. But when I hear people saying, wow, that's incredible, I'm like, I don't think it's incredible. I just invested so much energy in finding out who I really am instead of who I've learnt that I am. And so getting to that place of incredible vulnerability and finding that's where your power is now. So that was my journey, and the work that I do with other people is helping them to really undo all that conditioning and all those problems and the past life stuff that's still influencing this life because we haven't resolved it, and just looking at who is this magnificent being in front of me. And once we find this person underneath all the rubbish, well, then we can really work at, okay, so why are you here? What's the point of being alive if you're not in service to others? I can't imagine any other thing that I could be doing right now that isn't in service to humanity, because I found myself and I know who I am. And I feel, sometimes people come to me and they're really in their selfish, materialistic, not very kind self, and then you undo all the layers, and underneath there's this amazing person who suddenly finds that they need to go and help children. It's incredible. That brings me more pleasure than anyone else. So how do I live a heart-centered life? Find out who you are and then go do what you came here to do. That's my version of what you said, which is pretty much the same.
It's like putting down all your social conditioning. Like in my family, it was all about appearance. Like if everything looked good, nobody cared about what was happening for real. But if everyone was wearing pressed shirts and nice pants, and it looked fine, then we were fine.
Absolutely.
And I think so many Americans are caught in the look. And so to get the look, you have to have the money. To get the money, you have to go be mean or be like really greedy at least. and it's just eating people alive. You can just watch it happening in our society. Our society is like eating itself alive, because the time has come where we literally have all the resources to provide everything every human being needs. We have everything. We have all the food, we have all the shelter, we have all the heat, we have all the cooling, everything's there. But as a result of several people in our society wanting to keep all the gains for themselves, 90% of the rest of the humanity has to like scrap for survival.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't care what you call it. That's wrong. That's just disgusting. And it has to stop.
I could not agree with you more. I'm really aware of the time. I just want to address Denise, if I may. So thank you for your question. What relates to lung function and COPD? And you're totally right, Robert. What I find, grief is the one emotion that nobody knows how to express. And I say that with a lot of love, but we have been conditioned by looking at the movies that one, beautiful glistening tear rolls down your cheek, and that's you grieving for your lost husband or your father. And it's not like that. Grief is ugly and it's violent sometimes, but violent as in you shake and you cry and you lose your brain. You literally lose your brain when you go into grief. You can't function properly. You've got no rational, because you're in shock and all of these things. And I think this is tragic that we as nations do not know how to do what is a fifth of our emotional panacea. And so I have COPD as well. I have asthma. I've struggled with grief. My mother, bless her, all she wanted was a boy. She had a boy. He died in childbirth. All the women in our family lose their firstborn boy. It's insane. I don't know what that's all about. Anyway, she got pregnant with me, having not grieved at all. So for 9 months, I'm inside a woman who is grieving. And when I came out as a girl, she didn't touch me for 9 months. It's tragic.
Oh my God.
It's tragic. But that's, she had postnatal depression. She was grieving. And I obviously now my life has been about like processing her grief, basically. So I'm really privileged. I'm so lucky to do what I do, because I swap with some amazing healers, and but it's all grief, and it's layers and layers. And then I do my mother's grief and her mother's grief, and we go back through the family, and then sometimes when we get to as far as we can go, we're global grief. And I mean, it's never ending, because we don't know how to grieve. So if you need any help with grief, I really am quite qualified in that one. But yeah, anyone who has anything to do with lung function, and especially right now where we're all really frightened of this virus, having strong lungs is really, really important.
Right.
Would you agree with that?
Oh, everything you just said, I'm like totally on board with.
Excellent. And yes, the smoke from the fires affects our lungs. I have a really good friend in California, and the two things that she loves the most are her organic farm and the farmer's market, and both of them are and she's just like, what's the universe telling me? And I'm like, maybe it's time to move, I don't know. But she can't go outside because it's too smoky. And I just love and blessings to everybody who's struggling, especially Mother Earth. I wonder sometimes if this isn't a global expression of the grief that we are not expressing. But so thank you for the question. I really appreciate when people interact with me, because sometimes I can just talk, and then I think, is anyone interested? Okay, so we've just had the 1 minute. So Rob, really, really grateful for you coming on. Do you want to very quickly tell people how they can get hold of you?
Most of your listeners probably know, but you are more than welcome to go to my website, goodlifelongmont.com, and find me there. And I'd be more than happy to offer to all the 1-2 Radio listeners a half-hour free consultation to talk about health concerns. So I put my contact information up there in the chat. So just find the Facebook chat and set up an appointment, and I'd love to talk to you.
Well, I highly recommend you take Rob up on that. I've heard very good things about the work that he does. So please, if you would like to work with him, that's fantastic. Okay, so next time, which is on the 21st of September, I'm super excited. I'm having Katie Weaver on of 1-2 Listen and 1-2 Radio fame. So we're going to be doing health readings and just chatting about health. So if you are around, stay tuned now, because we've got C.A. Brooks at 11 a.m. with A Course in Miracles, and Kathleen Peterson at 12 p.m. with Friends. Thank you so much for listening. As always, we're available here on 1-2 Listen to help you with any issues that you have. Do look us up. We've got some amazing colleagues on 1-2 Listen. Thank you so much for listening to Clearing Path with Your Health. Thank you, Rob. That was a fantastic show. I really enjoyed that. And we are over and out. Thank you, Scott.